Welcome back, everyone. Most founders tell me their biggest problem is sales. Today's guest spent 20 years proving they're wrong. It's marketing. And he's got 1 million readers who agree with him. He is the author of The One-Page Marketing Plan and Lean Marketing. He's built and exited 2 tech companies, an IT managed service provider, and a publicly listed telecom carrier. And now he runs a marketing accelerator that helps founder-led businesses install a real marketing function from scratch. Please welcome everyone, Allan Dib.
Hey, happy to be on, Simon.
Dude, your books are doing so well. How are you making this happen?
I love when Kanye was getting his award and he said, some people ask, what would it be like if I stopped winning? And then he goes, I guess we'll never know. Look, it's very, very cool. I love hearing from readers every single day. The book has reached over 1 million people now. And it's very, very cool. It opens a lot of doors and I get to talk to a lot of cool people like yourself and other authors. And it's a lot of fun.
You say marketing is the key leverage point. But most founders, they think more about sales. What is the gap there?
Well, I think sales and marketing obviously are persuading someone to do something that you want them to do. So sales is doing that on a one-to-one basis and marketing is doing that on a one-to-many basis. So marketing is salesmanship in a one-to-many kind of environment. And we need to reach people with our message. We need to reach people with what we want them to actually do before we can have an opportunity to close them. The other thing is if you've done your marketing right, your sales is going to be so much easier. Whenever you find yourself having to push a lot in sales, to follow up, I remember in my first business, I did sales training with a very old school traditional sales trainer. And what was he teaching me? Follow up, push. If they have an objection, you overcome that objection. So it was a very adversarial approach. And I'm not someone who's very outgoing and I hated it. I thought I don't want to do this all my life, right? If this is what you have to do to create a business, this is horrible. And it was horrible. And what I found out is that you don't have to do this. In fact, that's not an effective way to do it. If you've done all the right things from a marketing perspective, sales becomes easy. It becomes pleasurable. It becomes a conversation. And, it just becomes so easy and frictionless because if someone knows you, likes you, and trusts you before you get on a call, it's dramatically easier than if you get on a call and they're like, who is this? Where are you from? What is this about? How much is this, right? So if they're already pre-framed, pre-sold, pre-interested, we have a world of difference in our sales success.
I'm sure everybody right now, okay, what are these steps? What do I need to do in marketing?
Sure. So in my book, The One-Page Marketing Plan, I've got a 9-step framework around what makes a marketing process work really well. And step 6 is closing the sale, right? So that brings us to the question is what are steps 1 through to 5? So really it starts with really identifying your target market at a very deep level, figuring out, okay, who are our people that we serve? What's the thing that they really, really want? And then putting together a message that is really attractive to those people. So where a lot of people go wrong, particularly from a sales perspective, particularly from a cold sales perspective, and I'm on the receiving end of pitches every single day, as you are, as probably a lot of people are listening. And 99% of them, we just delete them or send them to spam or whatever. Some of them even end up in spam before they even reach our inbox. So they do that because, number one, they're not relevant. Number two, they're not personalized. Number three, they're reaching the wrong people at the wrong time. So what we want to do is we want to have a message that is very, very clear to a very well-defined audience and that's attractive to that audience. And then we want to reach them through a medium that where they are actually at. And then what we want to do is we want to capture and nurture those leads before they get to the sales process. So, and that could be one day or that could be 1 year. So depending on what you sell, some things have a very long sales cycle. And so we might have to nurture them for a long time. Some things are a faster sales cycle, and both are fine. But those 5 steps, so the first step being defining your target market very tightly, having a magnetic message for that target market. Number 3, reaching them with advertising media. Number 4, capturing those leads and then nurturing those leads. If you've done those 5 steps, your sales world is going to become so easy, so pleasurable. You will look forward to Mondays rather than dreading Mondays when you have to like make all these cold calls and play what, people call the numbers game. And the numbers game is just a dumb way to do sales.
You sold 7 million copies and it's in 40 languages out there. And I know that you're getting letters because even I am getting letters from readers and they tell me what actually resonates. What
Yes.
surprised you in those letters? What's one thing where you go, oh, really? This one resonates most?
The fact that it's a structured framework, I thought that I was kind of just a weirdo because I do everything in a very structured way. I'm an engineer by trade. So from an engineering perspective, you think about structure a lot. You think about, clearly defined steps to solve a problem, right? So because a lot of people think of marketing as very creative. And yes, there's definitely some creative elements to it. But for the most part, marketing is very process driven. It's what are we going to do daily, weekly, monthly? And it's interesting to see that that resonated with a lot of people. A lot of people were like, you know what? I read so many different marketing books, but this was the book that gave me clarity and structure. And I love hearing that from people because honestly, I wrote this book for myself. I wrote the book for the person that I was when I first was in business. I was a dead broke IT geek. I had no idea about how to get a client in the door. And I wrote the book from that perspective. I was writing, what book would I have really wanted at that time? And I just wanted a step-by-step framework that could take somebody who knows nothing about marketing to being a sophisticated direct response marketer. And that's the book I wrote. So I wrote the book that I wish I had at the time, and it really resonated with a lot of people, and I'm incredibly proud of that. But more than that, I'm incredibly humbled that so many people have purchased the book, but more than purchased the book, but implemented the book and changed their business as a result. Like you say, I hear from so many people every single day. In fact, I have two assistants who helped me in my inbox because we've got such a large volume of incoming email from different readers who are asking questions, who want more support and whatever else, right?
The other book is called Lean Marketing. What is
Yes.
the fat that people should cut first from their marketing?
Yeah. So it's the second book is really about so the first book is very much about strategy. So how do I build a marketing strategy so that I know what are my priorities? I know what are the things what are the big rocks? The second book is really about implementation. And the thing that I found about implementation was so many people would just try to do 100 different things and they'd fail at all of them. And then when I looked at what all the best marketers in the world, and I don't know, maybe I'm bragging, but I count myself in maybe in that group, all of them without exception did a small number of things, but they went very deep and they did them very, very well. So they didn't do 1,000 different things. They didn't go in 1,000 different directions. They had very, very strong focus on 1, 2, 3 different things, and they would not add another thing until they'd really mastered that thing. So the biggest mistake I see people where they waste a lot of time, money, and energy is like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of LinkedIn. I'm going to do a little bit of Instagram. We'll post a YouTube video every now and then. When we remember, we'll do a newsletter, all of that sort of stuff. And nothing kind of gets traction. So all their efforts are kind of wasted. So what we really do is help people figure out what are the biggest constraints in your business right now. And every business is constrained somewhere. So a business that's doing zero revenue and is just a startup, or a business that's a multi-billion-dollar business, is constrained somewhere. And the constraint continually shifts. So if we think about your business like a production line. So imagine a factory. We have raw materials coming onto the production line, then it's handled by the next worker. They do something, they screw on a bolt or whatever. Then it goes to the next person. They attach something. Then they goes to the next person. They attach the electronics or whatever. And then at the end, you have a finished product. So I think of a business as a factory for customers. So at the start, you get prospects, people who don't even know that you exist. And then we want to turn them into leads. And then we want to turn them into warm leads. And then we want to close them. And then we need to onboard them. And then we need to deliver the services that we have for them. And then we want them to have an amazing experience. And then we want them to create referrals for our business and so on. So I think of it that way, as a customer factory. And so every factory has constraints somewhere. And the way that you identify a constraint in a manufacturing perspective, you look at where are materials piling up and where are people kind of waiting around. And so you identify, okay, that's a constraint. And so for a lot of businesses, lead flow is a constraint. For other businesses, lead flow is no problem, but the sales team is a constraint, and that's obviously something that you help people with. For other people, operations or maybe delivery is a constraint. You know, we're getting all of these sales in, but we just can't keep up. For others, customer support. And every business somewhere has some constraint, and your job as a business leader or business owner or CEO is to identify what's the biggest constraint right now and how do we unblock that. And then once you unblock that, there'll become another constraint down the line, because if now lead flow is no problem, okay, you're going to have lots of leads coming in, and now sales might become a bottleneck in your business. So that's the way I think of it from a marketing perspective, and really from a business perspective. What are the biggest constraints in your business, and how do we unblock those?
How is AI right now actually changing, not just, the hype, but
Yeah.
actually changing each of these blocks that you just described?
Yeah. There are there is a lot of hype with AI right now, and there's some genuine stuff that is really revolutionary, and there's some stuff that's pretty average, and there's everything in between. Now, where AI really, really shines is in things that have a definite answer. So, like for example, with coding, with legal, with accounting, with things like that, there are answers, right? So if I'm looking at a particular tax strategy or something, there's an answer whether that's a legal tax strategy or not a legal tax strategy. Or if I'm coding something, there's a right way to code something efficiently. So AI does very, very well when something has a definite kind of answer and there's a best practice, and that best practice has been, crafted over decades. So like drafting a legal contract, for example, amazing use of AI, because again, we're not asking AI to be super creative, invent something new. We just want to create a standard contract that is understandable by every party that's involved. It doesn't have any surprises. It doesn't have any crazy language that we had to invent or anything like that. So in those cases, AI is amazing, huge leverage point. You should absolutely use it to do things better, faster, cheaper. Where AI is not great is at coming up with something novel and new, something that's kind of out of the box, right? Because that's where you need a human in the loop. You can absolutely use AI to augment your abilities, to do research, to help you figure something out. But AI is not going to help you come up with something completely novel, completely new, at least not at the moment. The other way that I think of AI is it's an averaging machine. So I recently wrote an article called The Average Machine, right? But it basically takes the average, so it predicts what the average response should be. So if I tell AI the sky is, it will most likely give me the next word as blue, right? The sky is blue, because that's, probably the most average completion of that word. And that's great if you're below average, right? So if like I'm not a very competent coder or a lawyer or whatever, so AI will push me up to being average, and that's great. It'll push me up from being below average to above average. But if you're a domain expert, if you're an amazing legal mind or an amazing coder or an amazing marketer or whatever, AI is going to push you down to the average, right? And that's something that you don't want, right? So many times, like in areas that I don't understand very well, AI helps me, right? Because it helps me push me up to the average. But in areas that I know very well, so many times I'm like, that is not true. That's not accurate. That's not right. And it's kind of like, reminds me of the Gelman amnesia effect. It's an effect one of the psychologists came up with. It's like you're reading a newspaper and you read an article, and the article is about something that you know very well. Maybe it's about your hometown or your industry or something, and you're picking up all of these inaccuracies. You're like, this journalist doesn't know what he's talking about. He's written a whole bunch of bullshit here or whatever. And so you flip the page, and then you start reading about something that you don't know very well, and then you just take it as a fact, right? Because the new thing you're reading is not necessarily more accurate than the thing you knew about. It's just that you don't really know that area very well. So AI is kind of like that. It'll push you up if you're below average in a particular area, but it'll also push you down.
How much are you using AI for your marketing?
Yeah, using it a lot. So I'm using it a lot for research. I'm using it a lot to help me. I'm using it a lot in all the areas where it's not necessarily my genius zone or where it can help augment some of my abilities, but I would never let it write something for me, right? Maybe I would help me structure a sentence. I would say, does this sentence make sense? Or give me a shortened version of this, that, or the other. But I'm never, ever going to say, write me a 600-word LinkedIn post, because I'm going to sound like everybody else who's said that exact same thing. It's going to push me down to the average. It's going to make me invisible. So it's not going to make me say anything that, somebody else wouldn't say.
What will be more important for marketers in 3 years from now?
What would be more important?
Mhm.
Strategy, which is why, again, I feel like the one-page marketing plan, it's had this big resurgence, because when it comes to AI, it's really, really good at execution if you've got three things right. So the three things that you need right is, number one is the framework. So you tell it, I want you to follow this framework. I want you to do this step, that step, and that step. Then the next thing you want is to give it context. So give it some examples of what good looks like, because what you want to do is you want to pick the average of your best stuff, not the average of the world's best stuff, because the more average stuff you pick out from the world, the more sort of gray mush it becomes. So you need very good framework, very good context, and then the final thing is you want good negatives, meaning give it bad examples of stuff you don't want. So if you can do that, you're going to have much dramatically better AI output. And context is probably one of the most important parts. Like, this is the thing that a lot of people are really missing. They like give a simple one-line prompt, and then it gives some crappy output, and it doesn't really help them much. So you want to give it a lot of context and give it a very good framework. And so I feel like that's why the lean marketing and the one-page marketing plan frameworks have had this big resurgence, is that people need to feed AI really good, solid frameworks for it to follow.
You were primarily a business owner twice, and then you became a marketing guru. That's one thing that you learned. But also on the side, you became an amazing writer, because your books are loved by people. I saw the
Yeah,
reviews on Amazon. They just love the
yeah,
book. How
yeah.
did you learn writing? What is the process of becoming a better writer?
I mean, I'm definitely not a good writer in terms of literary terms. So, like, I will never win a Pulitzer Prize or anything like that. But the thing that people love about my writing is that it's simple, and I write the way that I speak. So it's I was taught this by a copywriter. He said, you've got to write so that a 12-year-old can understand you, right? Because most people read and write at about a 12-year-old level, depending on education levels. But there are a lot of people who've never read a book after they left school. And so you need to write and even if someone is well educated, simple writing is easier to process, easier to understand, easier to follow. There are some authors who I love their concepts, and I love their ideas, but their writing is so convoluted and so difficult to follow. And it's these big walls of text and these academic words, and it's difficult to follow and difficult to understand. And so, even as someone who reads a lot of books, who is in that industry, it's hard to read some books. So, whereas other books, they're easy to read, you get through them really fast. And the big difference is the easy books are the ones that are easy to read because they're written in a very simple and conversational way. So, the biggest tip I would give to somebody is write the way that you would speak, the way you would speak to a friend, because a lot of people will, speak in a conversational way. They'll be really easy to understand. They'll be entertaining. They'll be funny, all of those things. Then they get to write and they go into professional mode and they use weird words and weird language and try to sound professional and all of that. And there's no need for that. That makes your writing much, much worse.
What will your next book be about?
My next book is actually, I'm in the middle of writing it. It's actually not about marketing, not directly anyway. It's about how to live an incredible life because, I got to a station where, my business did very well and my business continues to do very well. And you start thinking about, all right, what's next, right? Because you always feel like I'll be happy when I achieve this goal, when I make $1 million, when I make $10 million, when I make $100 million, whatever it is, or when I achieve some other goal or whatever. And you get to the goal and you're like, that's cool. And you're really happy for a day, maybe a week or whatever. And then you're like, okay, what's next? So my next book is really about how do you live an incredible life? And again, I'm taking a very systematic approach because so many books you read are have great ideas. Like I was reading a book the other day and I finished it, and then I'm like, there were some great ideas in that book, but what do I do now, right? So the book that I'm writing is very framework driven. It has like daily, weekly, monthly practices for living an incredible life. So that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna pre-order the very first second I can. Will you
I
go
appreciate it.
self-publish or with a publisher?
I will. I have signed with a hybrid publisher. So they're a publisher, but they're not a traditional publisher. Yeah.
Nice. And why that option?
Traditional publishers, I feel, don't add a lot of value. They're basically, I feel like it's the dark ages. It's kind of like, um, when you used to have to raise millions of dollars to do a TV show, then you have to get investors, then you have to convince someone in Hollywood, then you have to hire staff and directors and all of that. Now you can just, with a camera and a microphone, shoot a YouTube video and reach more people, right? And so very similar stuff is happening with books, is where you don't need all of the gatekeepers and all of the people, and this guy says no, this guy wants your cover to be green, and this guy doesn't like what you wrote here or whatever. So you can have much more direct influence on your audience, and your vision can be much more direct, and the whole process can be a lot faster with less people saying yes or no.
But you also did not get fully self-publishing, a
I,
hybrid
I, I
version.
so my the only thing that I went with the reason I went with the hybrid is because I wanted it to be published at a very high level. So I wanted to be published with the same quality as somebody who would go through a publisher. And the second thing is I wanted bookstore distribution as well. So I wanted to be in bookstores and all of that. And the bookstores, honestly, it's probably mostly my ego. I like walking into a bookstore, seeing my books. No, it's not,
It's a good
most
feeling
books are
when
so
friends sends you a picture. Hey, I'm at this
totally,
airport. Look, there is your
totally.
book.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So those are the main reasons I went hybrid.
You mentioned your blog. Where can people find your writings in between books?
Yeah. So the best place is on my email list, which is you can opt into my email list at leanmarketing.com. The stuff that's non-marketing related or maybe adjacent marketing related, I put on allandib.com, but leanmarketing.com is we have a weekly newsletter that's all about marketing and the best way to to take next steps and set up your own marketing infrastructure.
I love this. And who should be contacting you and who should not be contacting you?
Who should be contacting us is anyone who's got a business that's doing maybe 300K up to about 10 or $20 million in revenue. And, it's not that someone shouldn't contact us if they don't have a business or if they're just starting out, but I've got a lot of free resources for those people. So I've got my books, I've got my videos, I've got a lot of free resources. If you haven't started your business or if you're just in startup phase, no problem, that's fine. I have a lot of free resources for you to help you out. So it's not that you shouldn't contact me, but our program is really for people who are doing $300,000 and above.
Allan Dib, everyone, the one-page marketing plan, go get it. That's the strategy part. And lean marketing, that's the execution part. Go grab it. It's amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Allan. Have a great day.
Thanks, Simon. It was a pleasure.